An insider report just gave the 49ers good news on the injury front. I'm going to tell you about that. Plus, I'm going to tell you about more injury news. I'm going to also tell you about good news on Bryce Huff and Christian McCaffrey, as well as several other things. We're going to get into all of that in this episode. Hit subscribe if you're looking for daily 49ers content, but I have a question for you guys. The 49ers are about to play what could be the toughest opponent they've played all season in the Arizona Cardinals. Hard to say. I think the Seattle Seahawks are a better team on overall, but on paper, this is matching up to be a tough opponent, the Arizona Cardinals. Where is your head at right now for this game? Is your confidence level high? Are you kind of mixed? Does it depend on if Brock Purdy plays or if Mac Jones is playing? Where are you at on that one? As we're going to be seeing one team go to 3-0 and the other team sitting at getting their first loss this season. Now, a much lesser Arizona Cardinals team beat the 49ers similar time of year. It was a couple weeks later. It was week 5, if I remember correctly. And that was at home as well. And it was an absolute scorcher of a day. I remember because I was there. And it was like 100 degrees. It was the hottest game ever played at Levi's Stadium. But the 2-3 Cardinals traveled to Santa Clara to take on the 2-3 49ers, who squandered 5 red zone opportunities and only converted on one of them. Part of that was the fault of Jordan Mason, but then you also had the defense making a ton of mistakes. Special teams had their own issues and blunders as well. And despite the fact that this picture I put on the screen, which is one of my favorite moments of the season, when De'Amar Lenore picked up that blocked punt, was it a blocked punt or a blocked field goal? I think it was a blocked field goal. And he picked it up and he ran it in for a touchdown. It was a special moment, but the 49ers still lost 24-23. Now, Sunday this year is supposed to be 75 degrees. And even still, the 49ers will be wearing their away colors just in case it gets any hotter. So they'll be wearing white for their home opener. Never done that before, so that'll be interesting. But I'm curious what you guys think in general, how you're feeling and processing this Arizona Cardinals game. I think this is setting up to be a really tough game. I think when you don't have Brock Purdy, which I'm guessing at this point won't be Brock Purdy, but we'll talk about that in a second. It's not the ideal scenario, but the 49ers can still absolutely put some damage on this Arizona Cardinals team if they can just be a little more clinical in the red zone. If they just have Christian McCaffrey, that seems to be a big difference maker to me, then the 49ers can go in there and do something. But let's start breaking it down, starting with the injury report on Connor Colby. Matt Miyoko reported this morning that Connor Colby is expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks with the high ankle sprain, and then said this. Did I say Connor Colby? Ben Barch, is expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks. But this is what he said about Connor Colby taking over for Ben Barch. Connor has an opportunity to Wally, Pip, Ben Barch, and take over as the starter if he plays well. I do think the more Connor plays, the more difficult it will be for the 49ers to remove him from the lineup, even when Ben Barch is healthy. And that is something that, if I told you before the season started, there's a chance Ben Barch ends up getting injured multiple times this season, I wouldn't be surprised with that based on the limited amount of snaps we saw last year and the injury that came after that. Ben Barch is a really good lineman, so this is a disappointment in that sense. But Connor Colby, your 7th-round draft pick, coming in and being as stout as he was last week and having the whole week to train with the ones and be ready with the ones again this weekend, I feel pretty good about Connor Colby and his performance so far. The other injury report that we got, and this is a good injury update, comes from NFL insider Albert Breer. Albert Breer said today on the Rich Eisen show, I was told 2 to 3 weeks. Maybe it's one of those deals where he gets back out there on the practice field and does light work at the end of the week, but my sense is that they want to sit him out at least 2 weeks, maybe the 3rd. So that would have Brock Purdy missing this week. And I know I said this is good news, and I'll explain why it's good news when I let Albert Breer first finish what he had to say, which is this is less serious version of turf toe than what Joe Burrow has, but it sounds like he's going to be okay. I think Brock Purdy is back probably, and this is a rough estimate, I would say week 4 or week 5. So could be next week for Brock Purdy, or it could be a short week, week 5 Rams the following week, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've got my math there correct. Here's the good news on Brock Purdy. Initially, he was said to be 2 to 5 weeks, and there were a lot of people that immediately just assumed it's 5 weeks. I don't know why, but there were a lot of people that did just assume that. And with how well Mac Jones played, I do think the 49ers, even if Brock Purdy hits the practice field this week, which is what Albert Breer kind of suggested might happen, even if that does happen, I do think that the 49ers are probably going to let Brock Purdy take that extra day to recover, extra couple days to recover, and come back strong the following week. But this is good, guys. Like, you came out of a win against the Seattle Seahawks away. That was a massive, massive win. That one because it's a division opponent. That one because it's a tough unknown. We had no footage and no plan for what the current Seahawks were going to look like. And we saw how offensively they played much, much better last week. So it does tell you a little bit about, or like this weekend rather, that tells you a little bit about what the 49ers did last week in terms of the defense and their ability to stop the offensive game plan for the Seattle Seahawks. So I feel pretty good about that win. I think that one, if I had to say, looking at these 3 games, knowing everything, knowing the Brock Purdy injury, I would look at these 3 games and say, hey, man, if you walk out of those games 2-1, you feel decent about that considering you got divisional opponents. You have 2 games on the road to open the season. You've got rookies in there who are going to get better throughout the season. And we've just seen really good performance from them. I'm feeling so much more positive about it. And add on top of that, Brock Purdy's a better quarterback than Mac Jones. Not trying to throw any shade on Mac Jones, but he's a backup quarterback playing at a high level for a backup. But I'd still much rather see Brock Purdy out there, and it looks like we're going to get him back in the near future. Let's talk about power rankings. Now, I talk about power rankings before. I don't want to get all nerdy on you, but power rankings are actually pretty important because what they do is they take a slight recency bias over top teams in the NFL, right? If you're just ranking the best teams in the NFL, your ranking system is going to look fairly similar every single week because you're trying to weigh in all of the factors. But when you go power rankings, what you're doing is you're intentionally saying, based on what we're seeing right now and the trajectory of the teams, this is how the teams stack up. The cool thing about that is the 49ers, and this is really cool by David Bonilla, who did a great job from 49ers Web Zone putting together this whole list. I'm not going to bore you by reading through all of it, but I'll just tell you what you can take from it. Sporting News ranked the 49ers fourth in the NFL in their power ranking, okay? CBS Sports, 8th. Sports Illustrated, 8. Athletic, 9. Yahoo, 10. Bleacher Report, 11. ESPN, 11. Pro Football Talk, 12. Ringer, 12. USA Today, 12. NFL.com, 13. So they rank between 4th and 13th across all of these different news outlets that are ranking these teams and their own different little proprietary ways that they like to rank these 49ers teams, or rank the NFL teams, excuse me. So the 49ers went into this week ranging from 3rd to 16th and have now cut it down tighter to 4th to 13th. So if you just wanted to play the average game, you could land somewhere around 8 or 9. If you wanted to play, best versus worst, whatever, I don't care how you want to mess with that. Take this information for what it is. I think it's interesting that the 49ers are ranking 4th through 13th based on varying amounts of recency bias and holdover from last year. And when you look at the division rivals, you take Sporting News, for example. They have the 49ers ranking puts the Cardinals at the highest 49ers ranking at 4, right? Then they have the Cardinals at 13, Rams at 7, and Seahawks at 22. Quick pause for a message from my partners over at DraftKings Sportsbook. I don't know about you, but this last weekend was pretty exciting, and there were some bad games, but there were also some really good games, and you can make all of the games more interesting with DraftKings Sportsbook. You can make the game more interesting before the game by projecting what you think is about to happen in this any given Sunday league, or you can make it more interesting right in the middle of the game, live in the middle of the action. Look no further than DraftKings. My partners over at DraftKings Sportsbook want to offer you an incredible opportunity to get started. If you're a new customer, you can sign up today. You can place a $5 bet, and you can get $200 in bonus bets. All of that just by using my promo code STSF. If you thought last weekend was good, just wait. There are 16 more weekends of regular season football, and that's not even including the postseason to follow. So whether you're interested in the spread or same-game parlays or anytime TDs, DraftKings Sportsbook has got you covered on all of it. The next great touchdown is most definitely coming, and if you want to make it a little more interesting, sign up today with DraftKings Sportsbook. Place a $5 bet and get $200 in bonus bets just by using my promo code STSF. Okay, I don't know about that. All right, I'm not there. If you look at the other end of the spectrum, NFL.com, who kind of had the 49ers the furthest back at 13, ranks the Rams at 7, the Seahawks at 14, and the Cardinals at 18. Over the course of 2 more weeks, these power rankings are going to look much tighter, in my opinion. I think you get through 4 weeks, and all of a sudden you know a lot more about these teams. That, you know, you got the Rams and the Cardinals, they're playing easier opponents too. Like, we gotta see these teams play tougher opponents like each other, for example, to really get some confidence in who's better than who. But I'm feeling really good about where the 49ers are ranking right now, and ranking number 4. That's wild, you guys. Ranking 8th, 9th, 10th. This is a top 10 team in the eyes of so many news publications, so many, 49er or so many NFL-specific sports companies. I think this is pretty cool. I'll just take that for what it is. If you don't like it, that's cool. Let's talk about Bryce Huff. And I'm talking about a chess, not checker scenario, because this is not Nick Sorensen's vanilla defense. This is Robert Saleh's defense. And there's a lot of cool stuff that came out about Bryce Huff today, starting with this morning, Brian Baldinger on 95.7 The Game saying this about Bryce Huff. The Eagles made a mistake. He's not a linebacker. He's a pass rush specialist. He's got to put his hand in the dirt. He's not an outside linebacker like they wanted him to be in Philadelphia. Robert Saleh knows what Huff is. He closed the game out against the Saints like Nick Bosa did the game before. Nick has somebody who can come off the edge opposite of him right now. Huff is better than anybody they've had over there at defensive end the last couple of years, being opposite of Nick Bosa, obviously. That's not the only thing that came out. We keep going. I've got Johnny Dell, who breaks down film. If you don't like Johnny Dell, you're crazy. You should, and you should check him out on YouTube. He has some great film breakdowns. He's awesome. A detail I didn't notice on game day. Bryce Huff's speed rush wasn't just a phenomenal win. It was set up by all the stunts and twists the team had thrown at the Saints up to that point. With Fred Warner brought up to the opposite side, it drew a 3-2 slide with Huff's side being a 2-man protection. Because you've thrown so many stunts and twists at them, they're expecting it, and the tackle was setting tighter to protect against potential games, and now you have a speed threat who can make teams pay for tight ends or for tight sets. This is a huge element of why the defensive front is looking much more disruptive. They have punch, counter-punch, counter-punch, and the personnel and coaches to run it, which I think is the ultimate end-all be-all. You've got personnel, and you have a great coaching staff. It gets better. I kid you not. It keeps getting better. The 10 fastest average get-off times. So this is the average get-off times based on all the snaps, okay? Seconds it takes to cross the line of scrimmage in the NFL through 2 games. Max Crosby leads the way at 0.69 seconds average get-off time. Bryce Huff and Nick Bosa are on that list within 5-ish hundredths of a second on average. Bryce Huff, Nick Bosa. 2 49ers players make that top list. That's pretty exciting. I think I actually cut off 1 or 2 on there, which was an accident. But 2 of your 49ers defensive ends are the fastest get-off in the NFL, and that is something worth celebrating. I thought I had something else, but I didn't. So I'm going to go to Brian Baldinger, rather, on Christian McCaffrey. Brian Baldinger got long-winded when he talked about Christian McCaffrey on 95.7 The Game this morning. Give this a listen.
But I thought McCaffrey, it's been a long time since I've seen him explode like that. Sometimes you could just see the rubber kicking up from the ground when he's making these violent cuts. You always know that, he's seen it really good when the explosion's back, when he's jumping through a hole, not running through a hole. He jumps through a hole sometimes to clear the trash. And then he's coming to a 2-point stop, and the kid Justin Reed made a good tackle on him. Otherwise, I think he was gone. So he's getting close. I think the explosive run is coming, and I don't, it's going to be any week now. But I think he's the thing that I thought last year, because of no camp and all the off season and the inflammation and the tendons. I didn't think his feet and eyes were married together. And his vision's always been so great, but his feet could get him to that. Now I see his feet and eyes working together, and he's seeing it on the wind back where the lane is, and I could see like he's starting to feel more confident. I never felt at any point last year that he played with any confidence. And I feel like Kyle knows he's coming. And I think Kyle's having a lot of fun getting him back into this offense, regardless of who's at left guard, who's at quarterback, who's at tight end. Like, that's the chess piece right there that he needs to continue to move around.
Now, based on the fronts that the 49ers
Wayfair presents mattresses.
Sorry. Based on the fronts that the 49ers had, that they were looking at, 5-man, 6-man fronts, they elected on several instances against the New Orleans Saints not to run the ball in what I think most of the time would be what I would call obvious run situations. I saw several times against the Saints where I felt like the 49ers, let's say I felt they should have run the ball. I'm not smarter than Kyle Shanahan, so I'm just telling you how I felt in the moment. I felt like that first drive, you have 3 passing plays, bad situation, 3 and out, and you're like, what was that? We're going up against a New Orleans Saints defense that did not stop the run well at all last year. Why would you possibly decide that you do not want to run the ball early on in the game? And every single play is a situational thing. You know, I know Kyle Shanahan scripts this stuff, but you have to remember too, you know, the first couple plays don't really go out the way that you want them to. Is Kyle Shanahan trying to help Mac Jones just be comfortable? What's going on here? When it's all said and done, however, I think Brian Baldinger is 100% spot on. Yes, Christian McCaffrey didn't run the ball as much as I had anticipated or would have necessarily wanted. However, when he did run the ball, he looked really solid. And Yak too. Like when he got the ball, he looked dangerous. So does that open up opportunities against the Arizona Cardinals, who is a better defense even? At least it seems that way so far. Yeah, I think there's still going to be some opportunities there to get Christian involved, and he's going to have to be involved. He, for the second week in a row, is the reception leader for the 49ers offense. So, yeah, you need him involved in more ways than one. But can Christian McCaffrey go and get some explosives over this Arizona Cardinals defense? Absolutely they can, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. That's where I'm at. I think Christian McCaffrey, I agree with Brian Baldinger that Christian McCaffrey is the he's the magic piece. He's the key that solves and unlocks how we beat the Arizona Cardinals. And Mac Jones is an important part of that as well, who will get a second week of training with the ones. He'll have a lot more confidence coming out of that last week, and he'll go into this. I think they'll go into the game with a much better game plan early on in the game. I don't think it'll take nearly as long as it felt like it did for Mac Jones to kind of find his stride and get comfortable. I think the 49ers are going to be just fine in this Arizona Cardinals game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout win. I'm not trying to say that. I think it's going to be a tight game, but I think the 49ers are playing complementary football, finally playing complementary football based on what we saw this last weekend, and I think that's going to work out really well for the 49ers at home in their home opener. Brock Purdy, if he's not available, it definitely has an impact, but I still think the 49ers with Mac Jones and Kyle Shanahan calling the plays and Robert Saleh on with his crazy defense, I think that the 49ers are going to be able to get this one over the line. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. As always, appreciate you guys and hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your evening as we are now 4 days. It says 5. We're 4 days away from the Arizona Cardinals at home.